Our guest is Stephen Lang, President and CEO of dancker, an interior solutions firm with offices in Somerville, New Jersey, Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. Tell us about dancker's long history and how the company has evolved over the years.
Edwin, good afternoon. Thank you. Remarkably, dancker started a very long time ago, 1829 to be exact. And I did get the 18 right. The original founder was a gentleman named Timothy Salou, and he made roll-top desks in Lower Manhattan before the streets were paved. We've since evolved, and the company has gone through several name changes before we landed on just dancker. But we were dancker, Salou, and Douglas, with the namesake being Salou all the way back from the 1800s. So we migrated from that period to probably at the turn of the century and early in the Industrial Revolution to being a distributor of products and services in the Northeast primarily. And at the time we were basically a desks, chairs, and file cabinets company, and we sold and serviced those through the Industrial Revolution. And then something unique happened in this industry, and systems furniture showed up, and that was probably, late 70s, mid to late 70s. So we evolved into a, reseller, manager, and space planner around the cubicle, and that really catapulted the company quite a bit forward at the time. The cubicle at the time was quite an interesting invention to take power out to the individual workers and to rethink office space. And I think we're at that new inflection point now, even pre-pandemic, where many in the industry are thinking about commercial space, commercial interior space, not through the lens of furniture, but our firm today is basically practicing architecture, furniture, technology, and logistics, the components, and pulling all that stuff together. We have about 250 employees, and we're about a $200 million company.
What kinds of challenges has the coronavirus pandemic presented to dancker, which is focused on interior solutions at a time when employees are largely working from home?
I think first and foremost, when I think about that question, I think in terms of our own company and our own employees. And first and foremost, it's their own health and safety and the wellness of our own people. Like many companies, we weren't expecting this, right? It just sort of came upon us, and here we are. So first and foremost, taking care of our own people. And I mean that both in the office, and obviously we're home and we're social distancing, and we have the platform to do so, but also through the lens of our folks, because as a distributor, as a service provider, we have people in the field every day, and we work with many of the hospital companies and big healthcare facilities. And so during the early days in this pandemic, that late February, early March frame, we were sending people in harm's way out to the field to set up these remote offices and remote sites to do testing and to get the hospitals at a point where they could manage the influx of people. When I think, though, more importantly about what this is doing to the industry, it's going to change a lot, right? I think when we think about how work is done, I think of how work is done like how we decide to go somewhere. Transportation has many options. I can walk, I can take a bike, I can drive a car, I can take a bus and a train, all pre-pandemic, by the way. And work is becoming that way, and we're having to rethink how work is done. And, I can define work by where I do it, or I can define work by what and how I need to do my work. And if I do that, I start to think about the different modes and the different places that I can do different types of work. So that's a big focus of our firm, a big focus of the industry right now, is to try to redefine work in terms of what you need to do and how you need to get it done. And therefore, where you do it becomes a discussion more than the simple solution of I must work from home or I must work in the office. Let's define your work first.
So what kinds of changes can companies make to their physical space to convince employees it's safe to come back to work?
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of things, and I want to come at it from really two different angles. One, the health and safety of employees is super critical. So, the simple things like social distancing and making sure that you have 6 foot of space between everyone. We talked about this ad nauseum. Our federal government, our local governments are talking about it. Increasing cleaning protocols, something that's very, very, very important. And I would say not only increasing the cleaning protocol, but increasing the perception of clean. And what I mean by that is, if I didn't see it happen, did it actually happen? What does that mean? Is my space really clean? Giving people, as we migrate, as America migrates back into the office, giving people the ability to do it on their own, to navigate their own cleaning of their own area, right? It gives people that little extra comfort and the perception of clean. Testing, temperature checking. We're doing that as a small middle market company. We're testing everybody as they walk in. The other thing I would say is frequent communication and the understanding that now more than ever, if we don't solve for all of our employees' health and well-being, no good work is going to get done, right? If people aren't feeling comfortable and safe in the office, productivity won't exist. And as executives, as leaders, I think it's incumbent upon corporate America to rethink what's important. And if they truly understand it through the lens of their employees, they begin to refocus the messaging. They begin to have a little more empathy about how people are feeling. And once they come over that hurdle, and once, eventually we will, there'll be a solution to this problem, right? I mean, eventually there'll be a vaccine, and eventually things will settle into whatever new normal exists then. But until that time, having a good understanding of people and how they're thinking, and if you can solve for that, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? If you don't solve for the basic needs of safety and security, you'll never get to those aspirational needs of, a feeling of accomplishment and doing good work as a team. And that to me is the really human behavior importance of, what we do as folks that plan the interiors of space.
What role will technology play in adapting office space to fit a post-pandemic world?
Probably the single biggest change will be in the adaptation of technology around the commercial space, the commercially built space. Things that existed before and were important have become significantly more important. So here's a good example. Sensors, simple occupancy sensors that measure how many people are in a space, how long they were there, and frankly, how close they were, right, in a confined space of, let's say, a conference room. I can tell you with this sensor technology, it's like some analytics around behavior in the space. I can tell you through the sensor technology how many people were in a conference room, how long they were there, and really, if I understand and it's connected to the technology, what did they use while they were in the room? Now, on the surface, that's important, and it's good to know if you're a corporate real estate executive and you're managing a portfolio of real estate. How effective is my real estate? How optimized really am I using my real estate portfolio? Are there places where I could maybe densify, right, pre-pandemic? Now, during and post-pandemic, there's a whole new lens on how to use this stuff. Like, oh my God, am I actually using the social distancing guidelines? Are they in practice? Are people behaving in a way that is allowing them to distance themselves, right? We all talk about it, but measuring human behavior, and that, by the way, the sensors don't measure who you are. They just measure a body was in this space. They came in, they left, how many people were in the space. So those things, those workplace analytics that are allowing us to measure human behavior in this space, before were important because it allowed us to optimize a space. Let's change that conference room. It's not being used. Hey, this is set up for 12, but on average, you've only had 6 people in it over the last 12 months. So you're not optimizing your space. Let's reconfigure, reconnoiter the space. Now with social distancing, there's a whole new lens of how we use the technology.
Will amenities such as on-site healthcare facilities or more outdoor spaces be incorporated into office buildings going forward?
So I have a strong opinion here. If you don't have to go to work, then what's the physical space for? What's the building for, right? And do we need them? I mean, I have a selfish, self-serving interest that says, yeah, I hope we need offices because, I plan, provide, and implement, commercial office space, healthcare, education, but office space. What I think, though, is even more interesting is if you reimagine the workplace as the physical workplace, the office, as a destination, a place that people actually want to go. One of our clients said, think of it like a club, right? I want to go to the club because the club has all the amenities. I see people there. I can socialize. I can collaborate. I can engage with people. And if corporations decide to reimagine their office and create a destination, I think that's the edge that, look, we all live in a competitive environment. I don't care what business you're in, right? We're all competing with each other, our competitors. And corporations are no different, right? They are the existence of competition, right? So if I'm a real estate firm, if I'm in drug discovery, if I'm a pharmaceutical, if I'm a bank, how do I create that edge? Well, one of the ways I do that is create a space that is set for collaboration, that is set for brainstorming and ideation. And this is a great platform, Zoom. I mean, our entire organization is on it. We're meeting, we're running a company, right? It's good enough. But is good enough really what we're all aiming for if you want that extra edge, if you want to be a highly competitive firm that is a market leader, right? So I think the office has to be reimagined in a way that most haven't accomplished. Some started, and I don't mean the rock wall, I don't mean the pool table or the foosball table, I mean truly reimagining the office to be a club, a destination where people do their best work. And listen, if you have to do a report, if you have to do some heads down reading, work from home. If you're able to, if you don't have little children or if you have a space that is conducive to work from home. But if you want to collaborate, if you want to ideate, if you want to work in groups and do good work and convene in a way that's really powerful, you need a space to do that. You need a space that invites people to do that.
Dancker's been a pioneer in modular construction. What is modular construction and why has it become so important in the wake of the pandemic?
It's different. Think of it as off-site construction, right? It's a controlled environment. And this is primarily, if a building is at its shell, bricks and mortar, steel and bricks, we bring everything inside of that. And so really what I'm talking about is the glass partition, the full height office, the space the walls, the vertical space that houses the technology. In a healthcare environment, it could be an actual patient room that carries all the med gases through the wall and attaches to the hospital bed or all those med gases that are at the front of the hospital bed. So this off-site construction, modular construction, is done in a controlled environment in a factory. There are several factories that we work with and several manufacturers that we work with. And in doing so, it gives us a lot more controllability over the product. And in the field, it still has to get constructed, right? But you're not constructing it in a way that starts from the bare bones. And so conventional construction, metal stud, drywall, tape, spackle, sheetrock, guns that put the screws in. It's messy. When you change it, it's really messy and fills landfills with stuff. And, if you think of a job site as like a dance of the trades, right? Think of a construction job site. There's a lot of downtime with different trades that are performing all the functions to get the building built. Mechanical, electrical, all that stuff. They're all working in concert with each other. So if we can have control over the built environment, build most of it in a factory, in a controlled environment, and then assemble those components in the field, we got way better utilization of labor, way better waste of labor while we're doing the dance between all the trades. And all of that stuff is planned way ahead in a 3D parabolic software environment. And so it kind of reminds me, I have a 16-year-old son who's a heavy gamer. It reminds me of that gaming technology. We've taken clients with virtual reality goggles, taken them through their space because we've planned it in this 3D parabolic world, much like you see in a gaming world. And we can talk about, let's move that wall. Wait, why don't we change that? Let's put the sink here. Wait, I'm going to need to have plumbing here. Okay, we're doing that not in a live mock-up where we're tearing the drywall down and rebuilding it. We're doing it in this 3D virtual reality world. And when we're done, we literally hit enter and it sends the software sends the order to the factory. They manufacture it, assemble it, and we bring it into the field and finish building it, if you will. It's really effective. And when you think of the cost of change, when you think of the landfills of drywall on the associated with that cost of change, there's no better way to build a building, and the technology has improved tenfold in the last 5 years.
Beyond physical changes, how has the pandemic changed the relationship between organizations and their employees? And do you think those changes will be permanent?
That's a $100,000 question. It depends on how long this lasts. One of the concerns I have as I talk to our clients and real estate executives, HR executives, we're in this gig economy. We were in this gig economy before the pandemic started. And in a gig economy, how do we make sure that the people on our team feel part of the team? It's harder to do. Can you do it through Zoom? You absolutely can. Is it the most optimized way to do it? I don't think so. So in a new environment, current and post-pandemic, I think organizations need to find a way to work against the independent contractor gig economy and create the valuable asset of teamwork, of collaboration, but also of this sense of community. When I played sports in high school, I'm sure many of us have, there's something about being on the team, right? There's something about we're on the A team and we play those guys, and those guys we want to beat, and those guys we want to beat. And when you have this social distance experiment that we're forced to have, there's no one's arguing that. You lose the connectivity of a team. You lose the collaboration. You lose that sense of community. It's harder to build trust over a video platform, right? How do I get a sense of who you are? How do I really know a little bit more about you? We're doing our best. I mean, organizations, the country, we're doing our best. But I do think some of this could be permanent if we don't fight the urge to take the easier way. It's good enough. I think you're going to find a resurgence as the virus settles, a resurgence, pardon the word, of I need to be with people. I need to convene. I need to collaborate. I need to, imagine a meeting where 5 of us are sitting in the meeting and 2 people are on video. Tell me the 2 people on video feel like they're part of the meeting the same way the people in the space do. They just don't. And that's part of the challenge and part of the opportunity for corporations that want to lead is how do they create enough chances for people to do their work, not be prescriptive about it. So, if I want to travel from Baltimore to Chicago, I got a bunch of options. I can, again, post-pandemic, I can take a train, I can take a bus, I can take a car, I can walk if I want to. It's going to take me forever, but I could walk, right? I could jog, I could, just like work, as I said earlier, depending on what you're trying to do, there are many ways to do it. There are many ways to work. And I think if we and corporations start to think through that lens, they've got a better chance of keeping their people engaged. It's a big problem today. How do we keep people engaged in their work? And corporations, big and small, have a better chance at doing their best work.
I want to thank you for sharing your vision for the office of the future in this new world that we're living in.
Listen, Edwin, thank you very much. Happy to do it. Thank you to Citybiz. And, it's a new world, and we're here to help create it with you and your listeners.